Hello and welcome, Nick.
Ah.
Welcome to the... Do you know what this podcast is called?
Yeah, I knew what the original name was.
Yeah, do you know what the new name is?
No. Yes.
You know when a baby bird is trying to escape from the nest for the first time? Fluff, 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 fluff. Falling straight to the ground.
Oh no.
That's awkward.
Is it though? Isn't that tragedy? Tragic?
Tragic?
Tragic.
I think we people think it's awkward. There's some concept that we make up, maybe, in our minds. Animals are just like, it's just life, bitch.
So spit it out. What's the name? The new name?
It's the awkward lift.
The awkward lift.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Rising to new occasions in life can be awkward, and that's all right.
Yeah. Well, I like it.
You're welcome. So, starting off, let's start off with the awkward. Have you ever been in an elevator where you just felt like, this is awkward?
Yeah, 100%.
Do you have an elevator story? We always love an elevator story. Getting stuck or a pitch or whatever.
So, I made out with a colleague once in an elevator.
Oh.
Yeah. Like surprise make-out. It was cool. I also stood in an elevator with my boss, who really didn't like me at that time, which was, I guess, in the classic sense, awkward. But the most disturbing time was when I was stuck in the elevator.
Ooh.
It was Friday night and I really wanted to go out. And I came from the gym.
Were you alone?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. I was alone. I came from the gym and I was ready to take a shower and get ready for Friday night. And then I got stuck in an elevator. I had to wait for the janitor to save me.
Where was this? Was this in
Munich?
In Munich.
In Germany.
In Germany.
Yeah.
Wow. The janitor.
Yeah, the janitor.
Dude. Wait, no. Let's continue with yours. And then I gotta bring up remember the one in Japan?
Oh.
In Midtown.
Yes.
Oh my god. That was awkward.
So for people who don't know,
are we gonna tell it?
I think so. I mean, you already
There's nothing more to tell about the janitor.
The janitor. Well, the janitor was my saving savior, and it was awkward in the sense of, I don't know how he did that, but he had a way to manually, lift the elevator, I guess, by a few inches, so he could stick his head in between and to see who is it. And he was laughing his ass off when he saw me.
What?
That's
something I would do.
I have good memories of him. He was a drunkard, but he was a very funny Bavarian dude. And
the lederhosen?
Yeah, not quite, but
you could vision it.
Yeah, I could. Yeah, exactly. And he was a good guy. Well, he saved me that night. Anyway, let's get into Japan mode.
Yes.
Hi, itadakimasu.
Midtown.
Beautiful Midtown.
Any of you guys know Midtown in Japan? Is it Roppongi? It's sort of.
Yeah, it's next to Roppongi.
It's on the other side.
It's like a fancy businessman area, living area.
So what happened? We ended up in an after party. We were what? That was when we were living in Tokyo. So I was
20.
You were 20. I was 21, possibly. Yeah. And we ended up at this after party in Midtown.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think these people, I think we got to know them randomly on the street, basically.
On the street, yeah.
And Yeah, it was some lawyer lady, I think, and her friends. They
Was it-
want to have a party at her place.
Yeah, but they were sort of going to sleep as well. So I think, looking back now,
Yeah.
she wanted to get two young guys,
And we totally didn't.
and she was about 30 or something like that, wasn't she?
Yeah, maybe
Yeah.
something. Yeah, probably around our age now, or a bit. I don't know, maybe a bit older, 35, something like that. I don't know. Yeah, but we ended up at this huge mansion.
It was so big.
It was so intergalactically cool.
Yeah.
Like
Imagine
360 view around all glass.
Yeah,
Big,
there was three direction.
big penthouse
windows.
apartment.
Yeah.
It was really fucking cool. And I don't know, her friends were super lame.
They went to bed, and this was I think it was already about to get bright outside.
Yeah, it was really early in the morning.
Yeah, maybe 5, maybe even 6 could be.
Yeah. But I think we were overwhelmed by everything.
And then
We lost our cool.
Yeah, we left the place. We take the elevator down, and what happens? We get stuck in this elevator on this 20th. No, we took the elevator down. It went down from the 20th floor to. How did we get stuck?
The funny thing is actually that we didn't get stuck in the elevator. We got stuck in between two elevators.
Yes.
Because this building was constructed in a way that, well, there were several elevators basically in sync, parallel, but they were not going from
All the way
top
down.
to bottom.
Right.
So you had to take 2 or 3 different elevators actually in
Right.
that complex. And
in between the floors, there was security doors.
Yeah, so she opened the elevator on top floor for us, made us go halfway down, but then we didn't have the key card to use the next elevator. So we were stuck in between.
Right.
And somehow the fire door, what's it called, emergency staircase was not, I don't know, like it was locked or we couldn't, I don't know, there was some reason why we couldn't use it.
So what did we do? We called.
There was an emergency telephone. I guess it was there for a reason. I don't know.
Oh, man. And this guy came.
Yeah.
What did he say?
He said, yeah. So he was talking on the phone to his colleague for like, I don't know, 5 minutes. Then we just heard it.
And we barely, we understood basic Japanese.
Yeah. But he saw, at some point he said repeatedly, gaijin desu, which means like, yeah, they're foreigners. They're foreigners.
Yeah. And he was like, "Simasen." He was saying sorry to whoever he was.
Well, yeah.
Like, sorry. Yeah, they're foreigners. Yes. Gaijin desu. Gaijin hai desu.
And then he let us also out finally. The awkward lift.
That was quite. It took time. It took such time to get out.
Yeah. So we didn't get lucky that night, in any sense. But the view was good.
Japan. I remember Japan had this. They have this strange culture for us where they want to sort of. They want to shame you, in a way.
Yeah.
Like,
absolutely.
Why did you do this?
Absolutely.
Yeah, but why did you do this? And why? I came late to a flight. Do you remember when we went to visit Thomas, my brother? And I missed the flight. I ran there. I was late. I didn't plan it properly. And it was 30 minutes. Of course, this is an overseas flight, so they closed the gate maybe 40 minutes before. I was there 30 minutes. There was nobody, empty airport. I'm like, look, I can run. I've been running. I'm sweaty. Let me get to the plane. And she's like, sorry, but no. But why are you late? It's like, because I took the wrong train and I missed it. And, it was a...
I remember that,
But why did you come late? It's late. I'm here right now. Like, but why are you late? And I'm like, what? You want me to go down on my knees and beg? I'm here, please. Let me run.
Yeah.
And then I was like, look, let me speak to your supervisor. You don't know. I spoke to the supervisor and she did the same thing. She said, but why are you late? I'm like, oh my God.
I don't know if that's a thing with foreigners or something, but it's so opposed to not letting somebody lose their face. It happened to me a couple of times also, where they like do this thing where they actually make you speak out loud what a shameful thing you did and how much you regret it.
It's different. I mean,
I had the same with my visa. I were going out in and out of the country a couple of times to get the student visa extended.
yeah.
Right? Once my visa was it was expired since I don't know 3 days or something like that. And I wanted to take the flight back home to Germany. I was there for like an hour being interrogated why my visa is expired.
Wow.
Yeah. Well,
yeah,
happens.
Japan is we can talk about Japan for hours. But yeah, also the language school. You remember if we pay for school, we pay for these classes, but if we would skip one, if we would come late, or if we would skip a day or whatever,
yeah,
they would be on us. Why are you? Where are you? Why? They would call us.
Yeah, I think they were responsible because they were providing the
visa.
The visa, yeah.
Possible. By the way, what about these glasses? You brought these beautiful glasses.
Yeah, want to make it more awkward because
Red and blue.
They were my grandfather's beloved crystal glasses, and I thought it's like super weird if I bring my dusted antiques to your podcast.
It is
to your shiny white clean setup.
Dead man has been drinking from this one.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I like it. I mean, before we had these clear glasses. Now we got some color, some spark.
The spark.
The spark. Look, let's get into
the awkward lift.
Why are you here?
Why am I here, actually?
Why are you here?
I don't know, man.
I want to talk to you.
It feels good to be here.
And I want to talk with you. That's how we say in Swedish. We say, I want to talk with you. We speak with people, not to them. It's an American English thing.
Yeah, in German, because I'm German.
Yeah.
We also say, ich möchte mit dir sprechen.
Right? Makes so much more sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which means I want to talk with you.
With you. Yeah.
Just to translate that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, today we want to talk about sports. You're a sports fan.
I like
always
sports.
Been.
Yeah.
I never seen you go. I don't know the longest I've seen you go without training. Has it been more than? Have you ever been without training for more than a month? Maybe when you were injured.
Yeah, but even then I would do something, I think. No, I don't think so. Maybe when I was really, really sick. Maybe when I had corona. I don't know. Could be.
What motivates you to always be training?
I think it's good for your mind, first of all.
Mm-hmm.
To go out and move and be in movement. And I really strongly believe in healthy mind, healthy body. It's all intertwined and interacting.
Mm-hmm.
And apart from that, I just naturally have the urge to just get up and move and look for thrill.
Look for a thrill. Yeah, that's nice.
Like, I mean, I don't know, like everybody has their thing, but I could go probably a couple of months without going out in the evenings and not going for a party. But I couldn't go like a week without doing sports.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's my soul food.
And if you cannot do your favorite sports, what do you do instead? We're gonna get into your favorite sports, but what would you do if you couldn't do your motorbike riding, your MMA fighting, or any sorts of martial arts, or skiing, or would you do yoga?
Some people would now say that yoga is totally a sport.
That would be very wrong.
You think?
If they say it's a sport,
I don't know. It's the same thing. That's the same thing with bodybuilding. I mean,
it's an activity, but it's not. You don't compete in yoga.
Bodybuilding, same. Well, I mean, it's totally a sport. I would
Let's
say
do-
probably
who does
yoga.
the best
I mean,
asana? Let's do the most balanced.
but yoga, there's so
headstand.
many different ways of doing yoga, right? I mean, it can be
Yeah.
super highly intense, hot, cold. I don't know all the different versions, but yoga is tough, no?
I'm sure there are some people competing in it, but I think that would go against.
But wait a moment, is a
everything.
sport only a sport if you can compete in it?
I think so.
But people say golf is a sport, which I have a really hard time with. I'm fine with bodybuilding being a sport and yoga being a sport, but golf, I'm like, that's a discipline or that's a whatever. I don't know,
But I would say, yeah, golf is a sport because you compete. Whereas, for example, I mean, chess, I would say it's a sport because you compete in it. But is it a physical activity?
So wait, okay, maybe I have to look up the definition of sport then.
I don't know. This is my
You lost me when you said yoga is not a sport, but chess is a sport.
yeah. I think sport. When I think sport, I think about competition.
That's funny. I really don't think that way at
Because
all.
That's what I heard. I think I heard from about jiu-jitsu. Sport jiu-jitsu compared to self-defense jiu-jitsu. But I don't know. Yeah. Anyways,
You left me confused.
I'm also confused. I'm very confused
It's
now.
becoming awkward.
And let's not use the internet or the Chat-GPT to find out.
You love the Chat-GPT, don't you?
Yeah, I do.
I've never used it.
I use it so much.
Heard of it from you so many times, but I never used it myself.
I like to ask it for things, and then I check with other sources, and I see that it does make mistakes.
Really?
It's quite awkward sometimes.
Oh, really?
It gets numbers wrong. It gets dates. It gets some facts wrong sometimes. Sometimes it tells you things, and I'm like, "Can you send me the sources of this?" They're like, "Oh, sorry. I'm my bad. Sorry for the confusion. The sources are unknown."
What?
So where did you get this from? I don't know. I'm
My
sorry.
AI brain.
It does that. It's quite crazy sometimes.
That is weird, yeah.
Let's do a session about that sometime. Okay, so look back to the sports, right? What are your what kind of sports have you been doing in your life, and which do you consider your main sports throughout your life? And what have you tried, and what did you like to stick to?
Right. I tried a couple of different things. Funnily, I think they were all non-team sports, so it was always an individual sport. I was into what's called road bikes, like cycling.
Mm-hmm. Anything?
Yeah. Putting on some really tight cycling pants, a tight jersey, and cycling up the hills of the Tuscany, like a good little boy I was into that. I've always been into skiing and mountaineering, like free skiing, throughout all my life since I was free.
Free skiing off piste.
Yeah.
No.
Cross country skiing.
Cross country skiing, nice.
Off piste skiing, free riding, whatever you want to call it.
Nice.
I
remember you call it pow pow.
The pow pow.
Yeah.
Always looking for the pow pow.
Which means powder or what?
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah.
But finding the powder these days is a lot harder actually than it used to be.
Climate change.
A lot. You can feel it a lot. Yeah.
Less pow pow.
I've been really into shooting bows, like compound bows.
Mm-hmm. I know.
Same as you.
You got me into that.
Martial arts, various. Kickboxing, jiu-jitsu, and MMA. And then riding bikes, motorbikes, as a sport. That became a big thing. So I would say those were the biggest things I was into in terms of sport throughout my life.
Mm-hmm.
The things that stuck in the end, martial arts.
Mm-hmm.
in one way or the other, depending on the injury I had at the time, more grappling or more striking or whatever. The skiing and bikes. Like, I'm really into bikes since a few years.
Yeah, that's your latest love.
That's my latest love, yeah. Which doesn't mean I abandoned the other ones, but it just fits my idea of a lifestyle actually quite well.
Mm.
I would say it's living biking as a sport is a bit like I can imagine like being a surfer. Your whole life evolves around the riding, and you just identify as a rider at some point, and it becomes a lifestyle. Yeah.
We talked about this when we did the habit of ferocity. Remember?
The habit of ferocity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We did this.
That's a good course. What was his name again, the guy?
Steven Kotler.
Steven Kotler.
Peak performance coach.
Peak performance coach.
Yeah.
I think when you get in life to that title, you made it. I'm a peak performance coach.
I love the way he was talking like this in this course. It was
Steven Kotler.
It's quite.
He's a maniac, isn't he? And you can see it in his eyes.
Well, yeah, and I think what he talked about in this course about how he countered Lyme disease, which is affecting your whole neuro system, your what do you call it?
It basically fucks you up.
Neurological system.
Completely.
Yeah, and it confused you, and it's messed up with his immune and everything.
Yeah.
And the surfing, I mean, he was not thinking about doing surfing, but then when his friends forced him,
dragged him into the water, no?
When he was already becoming so depressed that he was becoming suicidal.
When he could barely move, I think they lifted him into the water.
Yeah, but when he caught a wave,
I don't know how it happened, but I think he was even having a hard time walking or something like that. If I remember, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, but there was healing to him.
Yeah, he did have a hard time walking, he said. And then when he was in the water, that somehow got released, and then he caught a wave, and it was like zooming through dimensions and time and space. It was like a psychedelic focus that he had at all of a sudden. And he talks about that in the course, that it's getting into the flow state, where your mind is
absolutely
not paying attention to certain things. It's a different kind of consciousness, a different kind of frequency in your brain. And he says in this course that I think about the motorbiking that you're doing. I thought about this when we did a course. Okay, that's Nik's way of getting into the flow state. You do something.
Totem to the flow realm.
I remember when you were doing I won't say road licking. You're doing the superbike. You're riding the Ducati superbike.
Yeah.
In the mountains here.
Yeah.
Which I think is insane.
Yeah.
Because of the wild boars. But you go so fast, and you gotta be on the road. That's puts you in a flow state, no?
Yeah.
In a way.
Absolutely. Yeah. The swing.
I mean, you're playing with death, so you gotta be super.
Yeah.
Conscious.
Yeah. So in my case, because you get these different flow profiles assigned, right?
From that course.
Mm-hmm. And my flow profile is the heart charger.
Nice.
Love that.
Yeah,
what is your flow profile?
I don't remember
I think there's like the social goer.
That was my previous one, I would say, but now it's more.
And of course, in the end, you're like a blend of different ones. Yeah. But you have a spike basically. My spike is the heart charger, which means you need thrill and adrenaline and movement and action to get into the flow state.
Get into the flow.
And I think for a long time, I have considered myself a flow seeker, actively looking for the flow state, even way before I did get in touch with this Steven Kotler program.
You were not thinking about it like that, right? or were you?
I think that it was quite consciously looking for a way to get into a flow state, but later then became the whole thing of like disconnecting from the mind, disconnecting from the character that you are, and disconnecting from future or past thoughts, and really being in the moment. That became a more conscious thing, like how that would work from a mindfulness factor, which is something that you and me, I think, lately got into a lot with the meditation training and all that. But I figured that the biking in my case, or these kind of activities, these kind of like action sports that involve thrill but also like movement, swing, they get me very easily into that flow state and in that disconnected state of being in the presence and not like thinking, like not having my mind taking over. And so yeah, the biking in that case started with sports bikes. Now I'm more into off-road bikes, but whatever it is, it's that sport helps me.
These different. I mean, they're kind of extreme sports. What do you like the most with each of them, and why are you mostly into biking right now? You think?
Well, what combines all of them is just something you don't do as a team. You do it individually. In the end, it's you who has to who's on its own. I like that. I think. Obviously, all of them combines a certain amount of adrenaline and thrill. I like that. And I always thought with the fighting sport, with the martial arts, I always thought it's so interesting that it's one of the very few sports where in a competitive situation, or even if in just a sparring situation, when you don't perform, you actually get hurt. You get physically hurt. And that...
You mean when you don't perform well?
Yeah, if you're basically the one being submitted in some way, and you are in the ropes, you are in the corner, and you just like, even if it's just training, you're like fighting to get out there, something kicks in. Something very primal in you kicks in. And learning to deal with that is, I think, very, very fascinating. I think all sports that make you be in challenge with your inner demons and fight your inner emotion, overwhelming emotions, fears, and all of that, that's very interesting. That goes for the biking as a sport. You know, whether you go with 300 kilometers per hour over a racetrack, or you're running down a hill on an enduro bike.
Yeah.
Or for fighting sports, or in free skiing when you ski down an empty, a lonesome mountain and in a rocky, rough terrain. That goes for all of these sports. I think something taps in that is very primal.
Yeah. When you, for example, so I'm thinking about fighting compared to riding, for example. So when you're fighting, you can get a lot of punishment or beating, right, for a full round or for a big majority of the sparring session or the fight that you're in. And so I think of it, okay, your mind is in red alert. There's this light and there's sound. Eject, abort, do something. Get out of there. You're gonna get smashed.
Yeah.
But in motorbiking, what would be a similar situation? Because I mean, if you would be really close to something dangerous in motorbiking, that could be death, right? If you're driving superbike on the road, I mean, you're losing control. Maybe not so much in the trail. I don't know. Can you dig into that?
Yeah, I mean, whether it's the extreme case of like dying or seriously injuring you, I mean, there's obviously a broad spectrum, but the interesting aspect of the biking is that you should really not lose focus. And I mean, it's easily to be distracted or making a mistake, whether that's in your technique, in your body posture, or in your way of thinking. And I think that's, it's different from the fighting sports in that regard, but it's more on the, it ends in a bad way once you lose focus. Mostly, I would say. While in the fighting, it's like you said, like it's more about staying in. Of course, it's all about focus as well, but it's staying in control of those red alert emotions and staying calm. Right.
So there is this one race you went to. I went with you in what's called Basea.
The Basea race, yeah, Basea race one.
So in that race, you went through a lot of different stages and emotions and a lot of different things, right?
Yeah.
There was one training day, and then the next day there was the race day.
Yeah, it was my last. So I just started riding enduro bikes, which is off-roading.
How long ago?
Now I think 15 months ago or something like that.
And you got into a race 1 year later.
Yeah, 3 months ago we went to this race. You accompanied me. Lucky me. I was very happy about that actually in the end, to have somebody in my corner, so to say. And I wasn't thinking too much when I signed up for that race. I just later understood that it's not the best race as a first one to try out. It's I think it's one of the biggest enduro races there is in Europe, at least, for sure.
Oh wow.
It was 1,200 participants.
Yeah.
And from amateur to really high level pro class, and everybody was riding in one field, meaning all 1,200 riders would start at the same time.
Yes.
And it was a race, an endurance race of 65 kilometers through the mountains. And the terrain was rocks covered by either mud or ice. It was so cold. We started by -7 degrees in the morning.
Oh, Jesus.
And
that's just outside of Barcelona, you would think.
2 hours north, yeah.
Yeah.
But that makes a huge difference.
Yeah, in the
once you get in the mountains in February, it's cold.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's cold. And out of those 1,200 riders, only 366 made it to the finish line.
I didn't know that until last time.
Yeah, that was a funny thing. Like, I mean, there was like Saturday was training and then Sunday was the race day, but both times you didn't, because I mean, there's not really a way to, unless you go to a specific viewpoint, there's not really a way for you to have an overview of the race, right? So you had no idea what was going on.
I had no idea.
Exactly. And I could see that on Saturday after the training day, where you complete the complete course and you're shocked basically about the amount of times you crashed and how much you hurt yourself and what a Jesus goddamn hardcore challenge this is. I came back from training and I saw you sitting in the sun chair and slurping your Red Bull and looking, hey bro, how's it? I knew like you had no idea what was going on.
No idea.
Yeah, it was a good experience. And I made it. So
how long was the race? How long was the practice and then the race?
Well, the top guys, they like the elite riders, the pro riders. Don't pin me on this, but I think they completed in like probably 2 hours or something like that. I think, top of my head. For me, it took, I think, 3 hours and a half, more or less. Mm-hmm. And then there's, well, people that took 6-7 hours, people that never made it. So everything on the spectrum.
In between.
Yeah. Lots of injuries, lots of crashes. It was a tough race, but it was good to tap into my primal instincts of overpowering pain. It's good to do this once in a while, I think.
So you told me when you came back, you said, this is one of the toughest things that you've done in your life.
Yeah. I mean, it's always, something is usually always overwhelming when it's for the first time. And it was my first, I've been training quite a lot for that race.
Oh.
but I had no idea how's it gonna be.
Awkward.
If you're fighting, literally fighting, I mean, you saw the start, fighting with 1,200 riders to get through a tiny needle hole, and then, you know, until that whole field spreads out, it's literally a fight. And
that was one of the craziest things that I've seen ever. It was it looked like a mosh pit. I don't know. I'm thinking of a mosh pit, just you know, a bunch of people being zombie-like, trying to murder, to get out or to get in or to whatever. I just saw all of these bikes standing row after row after row, and was a cone shape of a field.
Yeah.
And then it went around like a bend, and all of a sudden I just saw in the corner of my eye all these
People flying,
flying vertical.
Yeah.
And like boom, boom. I'm like, whoa! They're going up this way. I thought they were gonna come down this way. They went up that way, and in the beginning it was smooth, and then, you know, they just got clogged up.
Yeah.
And I was running over there. I want to catch you on the video, and then I saw they're just it's just a pit of revving bikes waiting to get a chance, and they're all sliding, trying to get their chance, and they're falling on top of each other. And then I saw there was actually two of those. There was one next to it as well. It looked insane.
Yeah.
Insane.
Yeah, it was absolute adrenaline overkill in the first.
Your bike was way bigger as well. Weren't you afraid to go up there with that bike?
Yeah, dummy, like, because my bike is a conversion of an enduro. It's a big enduro bike converted to a rally bike, which is more heavy and just it's more made for speed, long distance speed.
There's much more height in front of
Yeah,
you.
it has, yeah, exactly. It has this whole build up, and it's really not suited for this kind of classic enduro race. They all were going on lightweight 2-stroke bikes, and well, it was just a machine I had at the time, and I was racing with that. And I was used to it since I was training so much with it, but the difference showed like after the first hour, an hour and a half, where the weight of the machine really
weighed you down.
Yeah, weighed me down. My muscles and my stamina and all that.
Yeah.
So I was like cursing myself, like, fuck, I'm never gonna race an enduro race without an actual small lightweight enduro bike anymore. But it was also cool to do it. All these people flashing by, they're like, well, you got some balls. You know, it was cool. It was cool. But yeah, that was a great experience. And what actually happened is I fought on race day in the middle, like after an hour, 1.5 hours. I really thought, I was convinced I had to stop. Yeah, I'm so good, thanks. I really thought that I had to stop because my whole body was just shutting down. It was completely cramping up.
Yeah. Tell us about that. Your body, your arms and your legs were cramping.
First, the arms. I mean, you sweat so much, you lose all the salts, and you don't have a chance to stop. It's a race. You're like, for hours, you go full gas. And for people who are not into riding enduro bikes, picture it like a horse rider, basically, on a metal horse, so to say. Your body's always under tension. It's physically very demanding. So you're working, and you're also working the instruments all the time, the clutch, the brake, the gear shifts, and all of that.
It was cold.
It was cold. It was cold. It was hot, changing, you know. And yeah, like after 1.5 hours, I just felt like, shit, my arms, I have such a massive arm pump by now.
In the forearms.
In the forearms. And then it just started cramping up, and I was like, at some point my hand was like this, and
T-Rex.
Keep in mind, it's it's a motorcycle. Like you can't ride it if you can't.
That's all you do, right?
You need the feeling in your hands, for the clutch point and the throttle and the brake. It's like all very finite movements.
Mm-hmm.
And once you cramp up, it's like, and like just try to keep going, like, ride with one arm, shake it out, take the other, shake it out, but was no use. I had to stop. I had to stop and wait, and saw all these people flying by, and shit. But yeah. And after a few moments,
did you try to shake them out?
Yeah, stretch it out, shake it out. After a few moments, I kept on riding, and it hurt so badly. I was like, man.
You decided to push through.
I thought like I might end up at the next tree because I go full throttle on a tree without being able to actually control the brakes and stuff. But yeah, I was just powering through this pain, and it worked after 20 minutes or something, which was pretty excruciating. But
that's a long time.
Yeah, the pain faded away in the arms, and then started in the legs, which was equally as bad.
You just swapped location.
But now I was convinced, like, this is it. Like, my body just doesn't want anymore. But it's...
You did the same race the day before as well.
Yeah, in training mode, where you can stop if you want anytime, because it's not, you're not, making a time.
But still, you came back from the training, you were already...
I was pretty
quite
smashed.
Beaten up.
Yeah. So, but it was fascinating to see, like, that's why I think it's good once in a while to compete in something, to just see, like, that you can tap into these inner resources. And
so wait, after 20 minutes of pushing through, the pain went from your arms to your legs.
Yeah.
And then?
Just kept going, and at some point it disappeared.
It just disappeared.
I mean, this might not be the best advice, it kind of goes sideways. I mean, runners and I don't know what kind of crazy athletes have seen their bodies shutting down.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's good advice, but in my case, it just went away at some point. But it was pure willpower at that point.
You could have been, stuck in the cold, dark mountains, wolves having a piece of you.
Exactly, eating my liver. Yeah. But you had a similar experience, no? You told me once.
You know about my running. Because I think that's so cool, that story that you tell. Because it reminds me of when I went for a run, Christmas Eve, what was it? 2018 or 2019. In the mountains, beautiful, 18 Celsius. Or 20 Celsius, daytime sun. Out in the mountains here in Coserola. My phone was about to die. It was maybe 1 hour from getting completely dark. All the families going for a stroll in the nice nature were all gone. And I saw on the map, okay, I got about 30 minutes jogging to the station. That's nice. I'm going to get there to the sunset. Then, maybe 10 minutes after that, I twisted my ankle so bad. It looked like McGregor when he was fighting. It just, went 90 degrees to the side.
Right.
It just felt nasty, very nasty. And I was like, fuck, I can't even walk on this leg anymore. My phone was dying. It was 1% left. I saw that there's still 30 minutes of jogging. I thought now, 30 minutes jogging, that means 1 hour walking.
Right.
Or it said 60 minutes walking. That's what it said. The road was also getting into forks. I had to take and I was like, I don't know. I'm not gonna.
You're gonna crawl back.
Yeah. Imagine. So if it's 60 minutes walking, crip walking would be, gangster style through the forest. I'm taking my 90 minutes.
Like I said, all the whiteboards.
I was really thinking, I know there's no wolves here, but at this moment, I was like, this is where the wolves come.
So you had no phone. You had a fucked up leg.
Fucked up leg.
And you were there in your
I had nothing.
Daisy Dukes and your.
I had no cash. I had nothing. I had no extra. And so I thought, okay, David Goggins, run, bitch! You gotta run. Keep on moving.
David Goggins, yeah.
I listened to that book, I think, a couple of weeks before, and I just thought, okay, I can't walk on this leg. I'm walking like an old person. I'm broken. What do? Let's try to wrap it up. With what? A mental wrap. I imagined I was wrapping it up mentally, nice and tight, keeping it stiff. And I was just like focusing on keeping it straight. And I was step by step pushing through the pain. And it was working. I could keep it stable. I was just like focusing on keep it tight.
Wait a moment. Like, I always thought that you actually wrapped it with your shirt or something like that.
I wrapped it mentally.
You put a mental wrap on it.
I put a mental wrap on it. I got it tight. 5 minutes, a few minutes in, it started to go from pain to warmth.
Mm-hmm.
And a few minutes after that, it got like a radiating warmth. And I thought, okay, tomorrow I will either be completely fine or it will be so swollen I will not be able to use this leg for maybe a month. I don't know. Jeez. But at least I'll be home and not eaten by wolves.
Right.
And about 10 minutes, 15 minutes in, the pain went to warmth and then to nothing. And I was so shocked. Came back home, all good. I had still that 1% battery. No, my phone was dead. I didn't pay for the train. Came back home. Next day, wake up. 0 extra pain in that leg. It was just equal amount of David Goggins. Don't be a bitch. I don't know.
Also, maybe not the best advice, but hey, it worked for you.
Yeah, but if I didn't have any options.
Yeah.
Also, what options would you have in that forest, in that race, asking somebody to come and help you? How would they help you? Somebody would stop there and hang out with you for 5 minutes, and you're gonna say like, "You gotta be good. See you on the other side. Ciao."
Yeah. Well, there were marshals in between. I'm sure somebody could have helped, but
at some point
it's a bit more tricky.
Yeah, miserable there for hours.
Miserable. Yeah, absolutely miserable. Yeah.
So that's probably also a reason, because you were in a point. I mean, if you were on the practice with your trainers, you would just stop.
Yeah. I just remember because there was a category in that race, maxi trail, which are the really, really big bikes, 200 kilogram plus. And there is this bike from Harley Davidson. I think it's a Pan Am. Is it called Pan Am? I think so.
I saw the Harley Davidson.
It's it's like their first quote unquote adventure travel bike that is not like a typical Harley cruiser. And yeah, this guy, he was a professional rider. He's a pro rider, so he knew what he was doing, but he was taking this bike around the track, which is absolutely insane. And I saw him midway. There was this dry riverbed. It looked like out of a freaking dystopian fantasy movie, like dry riverbed with these white oak-like dead tree stumps, and it was completely filled with mud. And we were all going through this, and it was long, man. It was freaking long, and people were crashing, and once you crash, like to get up in this mud and to get going again, it's really, really hard. And I just saw this guy, this professional rider on this 200, 40 kilogram Harley Davidson in this muddy riverbed, stuck and absolutely desperate. The guy was like, yeah. I was like, well, I don't know, man. I guess you got to figure it out now. There's nobody helping you here, So And he made it to the end as well, you know? It's
Yeah, I
like
saw him coming through.
the mind, it's something that we say all the time, right? Like, as the mind is such a powerful weapon. But it is a freaking powerful weapon.
Dude, yeah. In the end, that's the ultimate instrument that you're working with, right? But the bikes, what's the weights? If you can explain just for all like myself, I'm very stupid about motorbikes, even though I see you with bikes all the time. What's the weights of the smaller enduro bike and your bike and that Harley?
Yeah, so a competitive enduro bike that you would use, I mean, there's differences, depends on the kind of race, but to make it simple, I would say an enduro bike, a sports competition enduro bike is about between 110, maybe 120 kilograms, including liquids and fuel and all
That's
of
the
that.
smallest bike, right?
There's smaller ones, but I would say like the typical ones that would be used, which
Mhm.
is like, I don't know, either a 350 4-stroke or like a 300 2-stroke or something like that, which are the most common bikes. They're around 115, 120 kilograms, more or less. So very lightweight, which makes them nimble, and you can just, maneuver them through really, really challenging terrain. Basically, there's almost no limits to where these bikes can go. Then mine, which is a rally build, is maybe around 135, 138
Oh, it's not that big of a
kilogram.
difference.
No, it's not that big of a difference. However,
It's
the weight distribution is very different.
they're much higher, right? Taller.
It's taller, and a lot of the weight is up high, and it's also a 450 engine, which means that the inertia is more, how to say, there's more drag in the engine or in the rotating masses, so it's not that agile. But it's mostly about the weight being quite high up, and you feel that maneuvering around or jumping once it tips slightly, you feel it. So the difference between that and the Harley Davidson, which is almost twice the weight, is just insane. Yeah, but they were not going exactly the same course. There was a cutoff, I think. So the course was a bit, but still, like, that should not, make it less challenging. On the contrary. Yeah.
But congrats, you made it through. You were one of the 300 plus lucky.
Thanks. Yeah. Thanks. It was a great
winning
experience.
contenders.
Yeah. Finishers.
The finishers.
The finishers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was tracking you in the beginning with the AirTag.
Yeah.
But this AirTag, it's supposed to. Well, first I thought it's working on its own, that it has some sort of a connection with the GPS or whatever. But no, it bounces off.
Yeah, it bounces off
an iPhone.
Yeah, basically any device that has a connection to the internet, it can bounce. I guess any Apple device.
Yeah.
And I think at some point where we were deep in the woods and the field was spread out, there was nothing where it could bounce off anymore.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah,
because I didn't carry my phone.
Right.
I didn't carry my phone, so I just carried the AirTag, so you could find me.
Yeah, I had your phone.
You had my phone, yeah.
Right. Yeah, I just saw Nik's wallet popping up here, popping up there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so that race, you prepared for it with taking classes, right? I mean, you didn't learn this on your own, driving off-road and trail riding. You take classes, right? You have a teacher. How has this is what we want to get into eventually. The teachings.
The teachers of our life.
The teachings. Who taught you? What's his name and where does he live?
His name is Alex Giral. Hola, Papo, ¿qué tal?
Hola.
He's a former professional rider, and yeah, I mean,
How many lessons have you had? You think up to the race? Once a week for a year?
Yeah, I intensified it I mean, I was training on my own 2 times a week, riding on my own 2 times a week, and then taking 1 class per week. So, and I did that before the race. I intensified it for, I don't know, like maybe 1 or 2 months, something like that, I believe. Yeah. Yeah, I'm a strong believer in mentors and teachers at this point.
You have so many teachers and mentors.
Yeah, right now I go a little bit overboard.
Can you just count the different teachers you have for different disciplines?
So I have a Spanish teacher, which I think is quite common now. I mean, if you want to learn language, I guess so there's nothing too special about that, but very thankful for my Spanish teacher. I would say my mechanic, who I dearly appreciate, he's a bit of my teacher by now. Yeah, because, well, I got late into bikes in my life, so I had to learn a lot of stuff quick. I'm a very obsessive guy, and once I have my mind set on it, I want to know shit.
Yeah.
So my mechanic, yeah. I have an MMA coach, David Aranda. Crazy guy. I have Alex, my motorbike coach, and that is it, I believe. Yeah, right now that's it. So a few mentors.
So the motorbike coach, yeah. What do you do in those lessons, and what's a lesson looking like, maybe on average or in general?
Yeah, it's a good question for people that either don't ride bikes themselves, or at least not do it in any sportive way, but rather see it as a means of going from A to B as a vehicle. It's a bit hard to imagine, I guess. But just speaking about off-road riding, it's quite a wide field. Like, there's anything from motocross, which is about speed and how to become basically the fastest around the track, to trial, which is about how to tackle the most crazy obstacle courses, and anything in between those two, so to say. So you could spend a whole class just, getting it right to jump with the bike over a big rock, or to jump from one rock to another, because that's a technique in itself. You could spend a whole class working on your cornering abilities and going smoothly around the corner, about your body position, about the way you approach the line, the racing line, and all that. So there's really, it's such a broad sport. And then there's also the different types of bikes that you can learn to maneuver, from really tiny trial bikes that weigh like 70 kilograms to big maxi trail bikes that are more than 200 kilograms. So there is a really wide spectrum of things you can do. And I just want to have a broad skill set in off-road riding. So we do a bit of everything, actually. And
so a class, what do you, I mean, for example, in jiu-jitsu, you have a warm-up, and then you have a technique section, and then you have a sparring section.
It's basically the same. Imagine a day we would warm up together, like physically warm up, and then
like doing squats and move the body off the bike.
I hate that, because he makes me do it in all my gear. Sometimes he makes me run to a tree and then back to my bike and put the bike on the floor, pick the bike back up, run back to the tree, and do the same shit, like, I don't know how many times. Like, that makes you prepared to pick up your bike wherever you might crash. So
it's probably a good thing.
Yeah, it is.
Sounds horrible though.
So we warm up, and then we talk about like what kind of exercise we do today, what the end goal of the class is, basically. And it usually builds up. If it's about finding a good racing line and racing around a course, then I would just usually, go my own first, and then we would talk about the tricky sections and how to improve the body posture and all of that, and put things together basically.
So he's always standing in a point where he sees you.
Yeah, he's observing all the time.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you go in a circle.
We ride together. Also, that also happens.
So
if it's a compact course where he can just stand in the middle and observe, then he will do that.
Okay.
Sometimes we ride together in the woods. There's so many different ways, but how to picture a class is like you said, you warm up, you discuss what is the exercise of the day or the exercises, and you slowly build that up, and then you work on the flaws until basically the end outcome is
okay,
the way it's supposed to be. It's a bit like, in jiu-jitsu, you would say you warm up, you discuss the technique, right? You're being shown a drill or technique, you drill that, and then in the end, maybe you put that in a sparring session. Yeah. In our case, if we are several people in the class, sometimes, which has happened, we would even have like a little race or something like that in the end. Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, he's looking, he's seeing, and so you drive around, let's say you do a course or you work on something, you come back, and then he gives you input. Okay, now think about this, now work on this, now change your weight distribution, now try to hit that corner a little bit quicker or a little bit slower, or
your braking point is off, you need to brake earlier, get your weight further outside, go smoother for the corner, and then progressively go on the throttle. That could be.
Does he sometimes, is it always about technical things, or is it also sometimes about mindset or if there's a mindset block or something that hinders you, that he needs to like think about it like this?
Yeah, I would say that there is. He's good at seeing once I don't progress and I'm like with the same exercise hitting a plateau. He is good at untangling that by making me stop and do something else and then get back to it, and then usually it works better.
Okay.
But I would say that the mental training, that's something I add more myself more and more now, in the sense of like what I said earlier, trying to disconnect from any thoughts that are passing by and just being in the moment and being in the flow state.
So does it happen to you sometimes during a training that you could zone out or think about something else?
Absolutely.
Even while practicing or... Yeah.
Doesn't it happen to you when you roll? When you think about something
in jiu-jitsu?
Yeah.
Less and less. It happened much more in the past. But yeah, it does happen sometimes, sure. It does happen.
I remember once when I was here on Circuit Montmelo, which is the local GP track.
Montmelo.
Yeah. And I was running the Ducati over the straight line and hitting 300 kilometers plus. And I was thinking about what I would have for dinner that night. And I was like, this is wrong.
In how many kilometers?
300 kilometers plus, I think.
Jesus.
Kilometers per hour plus. Yeah, 300. I think you clock in.
He's joking. He's
315 or something like that on the straight.
He would never do that.
Das ist nicht gut.
You're thinking about food.
I was thinking about dinner that day. Yeah, I remember that very concretely because I'm like, this is not okay.
Yeah.
Focus, bro. Focus.
That reminds me of if I would, after a party, take a bicycle home, being drunk, you underestimate that you're actually going fast, and that electric bicycle.
You love those electric bicycles, don't you?
They're so good. You fly through the city with those electric bicycles. You push one pedal, you barely touch it, and it's just whee, sending you away. It's ridiculous. It doesn't make sense.
Magic carpet.
Do you remember when we were in Japan and we had those hill cheaters?
The hill cheaters, yeah.
We rented bikes in Harajuku.
Yeah.
The hill cheaters.
They were really cool.
That was 10 years ago.
Yeah. They were already dope that time.
And that was, I think, I hadn't seen an electric bike before that, I think.
No, me neither.
Maybe in China. Yeah, in China I saw them before. But they were not cool. These hill cheaters were cool. Super cool.
Yeah. So back to the mentors in our life. Do you have any mentors?
Yeah, sure. Talking about jiu-jitsu, just recently I've always learned. Obviously, you go there to the class and you learn. But just recently, I think I've started to see the trainers more as mentors than I did before. You know, we talk so much about the ego in jiu-jitsu. You gotta lose your ego, drop the ego. No ego.
Yeah.
Says the most egotistical,
strong
guys that just choke everybody,
just like
regardless.
Down, yeah.
I'm like, yeah, bro, you're using too much force. You have too much ego. You just took the shit out of me.
He just fucking mauled me. Yeah.
But yeah, since I started teaching Swedish 3 years ago now, and after that I started to. I think also after the pandemic and the whole thing, maybe the last year, I really started to see the trainers as mentors. And of course, that it's like a barrier or a threshold of humbleness. Like, okay, you know, you see the person a different way, and all of a sudden, I'm just taking in information to a greater depth or level, and that is great. That's
was that always like that you were like, how to say, perceiving
in which way?
To teachings, to like be where you collect coachable always, or were you standing yourself in the way, like they say, like you have too much ego?
I think since school and childhood, I've had this. I've been sort of not necessarily looking for, but as soon as I saw a teacher would have any faults or wrongs, I would lose respect for them in a way, and just think, well, maybe I know better in some ways, which is not a great thing. Yeah. If you're in a place where you want to learn. Of course, not every teacher knows everything. No teacher knows everything. Yeah. They know a lot of things about something, and even that one thing, they don't know everything.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I didn't have, I didn't learn that early on. I just learned that, some teachers are wrong, and then I would confront my teachers in school sometimes. Hey, the book says different. Whatever you're saying is a lie. You're tricking the whole class.
Yeah.
That was my mindset sometimes. I was very popular with the teachers when I didn't do that, and then when I did that, they just hated me.
Yeah,
of course. But yeah, I was always curious, always, about everything, which maybe to a fault even. So I've always picked up things, whether it's from the book or from the teacher or from the environment being in a lesson. But being able to learn from the teacher. So back to jiu-jitsu. The first years, not knowing Spanish well, it was easy to zone out during the lessons, because the structure of the lesson, you have the warm-up, which you don't need much. You just follow. That's very basic stuff. You do rolls, or you do back rolls, or you do hip escape, or whatever it is. But then, okay, now you do the drill. The drill, still, if you didn't understand what they were saying,
somebody would show you.
Yeah. But then the actual technique they're explaining, and that can be an explanation of 5 minutes sometimes, or yeah. And you can watch, observe, and learn from that, which I did, and I mean we both did. And maybe it was the same for you. The Spanish was not good enough. The Portuñol was not good enough, where we would pick up all the words, and I didn't even understand how important the words were, because that was all I had.
Yeah.
And that was also, so that helped to zone out in a way, and not to pay attention to the words. It just trained the brain.
But it's more like a language barrier than you're not willing to soak up what is being told or taught.
Yeah, so the old mindset got intertwined with also not understanding the words, I think. So when they were actually trying to help me in the competition, they're screaming, "Muez, muez, get the arm," in Spanish. And I was like, "What? El brazo qué?" I'm like, "What the fuck? I don't understand what you're saying."
Yeah.
And they're like, "Wow, do this, don't do that. Fuck. Why didn't you listen?" I was like, I was fighting. I couldn't listen.
Yeah.
But
yeah, that's I remember like my old coach Ben Schotthöfer from Munich MMA.
Ben Bärenstark.
Yeah, Ben Bärenstark.
Nice.
He always said like a good fighter is somebody who listens while he's still fighting.
Yes.
Because Ben is like, this guy is fantastic being in a corner and coaching somebody fighting, but only if the person was
listening,
also still listening. Yeah. But generally, like this topic about being coachable, it's easier said than done actually, because our persona, our ego, if you want to call it, so many times is in the way, especially if things are being shown or could be, soaked up from somebody who's not labeled your mentor or older or in some way in the hierarchy above you. It's oftenly easy for us to neglect something or not to be open for it. And that's one of the big missings in life, if you don't realize that early enough. I have not always been coachable. I think I'm now very coachable, and I try to soak up everything from my surrounding, take it in. And I hope there will never be a point where I feel like I know it all. That would be terrible.
Did you have that in... Where do you remember having that? Do you have a class or a place where you remember that strongly? That
especially in fighting sports. I remember so many kickboxing class moments where I was like sparring with somebody, and he was maybe training the same time or maybe even less, or he was new or something, and I didn't like that he did something better, or he would even beat me maybe, and instead of just realizing, oh damn, I could learn a thing or two from that person, make up some bullshit excuses in your mind, like why it's not your day or why you're like doing this or that, and you could apply that to so many areas in our life where we make up bullshit, where we're bullshitting ourselves into believing, instead of just seeing openly eyes, no man, he or she is just better than you, and there's a reason for it, and maybe you want to have a closer look. What's the reason? So whatever you want to call it, as the ego, or I don't know, that stands in the way, but that really stands in the way of your not only development of those respective skills that you're looking for, but also your persona is really suffering from not being able to overcome whatever problem you have, and just take it all in. It's so beautiful to take things in.
Do you feel? Have you noticed any difference with what kind of intention you go into the class or training, and what kind of energy you have when you go into the training, and how that affects your coachability, or your ego in a way, or how much you're willing to absorb or learn, or be humble enough to ask if somebody would beat you in a sparring session, from beginning to end, for example.
So
if you're in, have you noticed, if you go in with a certain intention, that it would give you a different outcome of the training as a whole, the whole session? In any of the sports, because that's something that I noticed lately for my training. Because before I would just go to jiu-jitsu without before the injury, and I would go for quantity. I wanted to go 5 days a week, and it's just okay. I go there, I show up, come straight from work. I don't change my mindset before. I just go in.
The results will come.
Yeah. Whereas now I go once a week because that's my capability at the moment. But I'm looking forward to it so much that I'm already days before. I'm already thinking about how I'm gonna train, how I'm gonna feel, and what I'm gonna do, sort of. And when I go there, I'm already going there with all intentions to be fully there.
Yeah.
And the training is so different from when I was doing the quantity, let's say.
That's very interesting.
Yeah. I find it like that.
It's a bit following along the 80-20 rule.
You
don't need to
Jan would hate for me to say that, I think.
Yeah.
It's like treinar, bro. Treinar. Todos los días.
This has to be said that Jan Cabral is a former UFC fighter.
Yeah.
And your coach. So his training regimen is a bit stricter than on normally human beings.
But I think in every jiu-jitsu gym, they want you to come in every day of the week.
Yeah.
And that's like, how do you get better? You come every day. The hours will make you a better fighter. And I mean, I think that's the definite number one factor.
No, I mean, that's a huge debate, right? But I mean, in the end, it's the hours that you put in. I mean, there's no discussion about it. But how effective do you spend those hours is dependent on what your mindset is and how perceivable. Is it perceptive or perceivable? I don't know, man. What's the adjective? How well you can absorb.
I got stupid all of a sudden. I don't know what you're saying.
How well you can absorb. How well you are able to absorb the information, right? So if you, like you said, you're coming from work and your mind is somewhere else and just go there, questionable if it's not better than to just be laser focused. So okay, I have my specific points, making gaps before that to have enough time to ease with my mindset into it and then be fully there and in the zone.
Because this is what I've learned just speaking with Ninja Raul lately. Now he's been training jiu-jitsu for 16 years, and he got the black belt slightly after we came to Templum, 6 months after. So 6 years he's had a black belt. And he said just, I don't know, 6 months ago, he told me the last 12 months he's learned the most jiu-jitsu in his life.
Oh, really?
Yeah. He says he just learns more and more as time goes, which is interesting because that's his perception. Even though he might not learn new technique, but he probably learns so much more depth.
Yeah.
and control, and I don't know, having perfect connection in every moment of every transition and technique and application that he does.
Yeah, I think that also like time is, as with most things in life, a very constructive element, in the sense of that when things can sink in, awfully they naturally lead to new connections. With time of just doing something for a long time, or just mentally also having movements, processes, techniques, whatever, having experienced those for a long time, they sink in a different way, right? And then they become, I don't know, they become more natural.
Yeah.
Just with time.
Yeah. That's something I see with my students. Even when they take time off studying Swedish, not speaking for months, or taking classes at least, maybe they have some, watch a video here, listen to some music, or speak with somebody. But they've been telling me, I haven't been studying for 3 months. I'm feeling terrible.
And they will
I'm
do
so
fine,
down.
right?
Some, they might have lost some vocabulary, but some other things, they got more depth.
Yeah.
Some grammar has gotten deeper. It just has somehow sunk down, and they might not notice it, but I can spot it straight away. I'm like, look, you have some flow. And also, I think when you do something every day, you also put more stress and pressure. And when you take a break, it's like a holidays. You come back and you're more relaxed. You're more smooth.
I think most people know this feeling and have experienced it. Yeah, but it's always a surprise that some things just make click with some time. But what would you say in terms of this whole realm of mentorship and being coachable and just, adopting new skills in a more efficient way? How do you see yourself different now from 10 years before? Like, well, what do you think you have learned in that time, or how did you become more efficient of adopting new skills without just, by force putting in as much hours as possible?
Yeah, so first let's look back. Now 34, so that was 24. 24, I was back in Sweden training. Yeah, I remember I was preparing for fitness. I was training with my old boss.
You were into man's physique.
Yes, I wanted to flex,
reach maximum aesthetic.
I wanted to.
This guy was a huge guy. He was like bulky, like a Tetra Pak, as we say in German.
Yeah, I remember you called me Tetra Pak. Yeah, my boss, I was very resistant to listening to him first, but I was working selling these phone contracts. Yeah, he held on to me. He didn't let me go. I wanted to quit. I was like, this job is stupid. I'm having 100% commission, no fixed salary. You're making tons of money. You make money when I sell, and I don't sell, so you don't make any money. But you still force me to stay here. Some days I was selling well. But yeah, there was this, it went well the first 2 months. Then there was some sort of a crisis or something. What happened? I think one of the competition made this crazy discounts with the new iPhones. They made these crazy packages.
Okay.
And everybody was like, everybody else, I was completely new, and everybody else was depressed because of this. All the old good sellers, they were just low during this period. And so I rose up to the occasion, and I was fresh and naive. So I didn't understand that this could hold me back in a way. So I was selling a lot. But then after that wave died out, the other salespeople, they came up again. My sales went down, and I was thinking, they're taking my sales and blah, blah, blah. And I was complaining a lot. I was always whining and complaining that, yeah, this is not good. I don't want to be here. I don't want to be in this shop. All people are outside. It's summer. Why do we need to come at 10 o'clock and stay until 8 when the shopping center is empty? Media Markt.
Yeah.
It's empty from 6 to 8 or 5 to 8 in a sunny Saturday in the summer. Nobody's here. Why do we need to be here? Let us go. He's like, no, you stay. You stay in.
Jesus.
This guy.
Sounds like your favorite summer job.
Dude, this guy, it was the craziest thing I thought at that time. And he was a top salesperson within the whole company in the country from month to month to month for years. Vahid. Crazy. He would sell, 4 people would come into the whole media market and he would sell 4 contracts. Didn't matter. No people at the phone section. He would go to the vacuum cleaners, helping people with the vacuum cleaners. Like, hey, it says like Telenor on your chest. He's like, yeah, I'm selling phone contracts. I don't want a phone contract. No, you want a vacuum cleaner. Okay, let's figure out the vacuum cleaner. Now that you got the vacuum cleaner, let's look at your phone contracts. No, but I don't. Let's have a look at them. Come on, let's go. And he would scare people to buy contracts.
I thought it's so sketchy that you were selling phone contracts.
I remember that.
I'm like, fuck, this is such a young, desperate man's job.
Yeah. But I learned, he kept me there for a year. And I learned some discipline at this job. Really. He forced me to stay, and then we started to go to the gym together. And that was a nice thing as well, because he was a natural bodybuilder. Not super big, but he knew how to train and he knew how to push really hard at the gym. And he was really being like a sort of a mentor coach. He's like, look, he was looking at me in the mirror like, yeah, you have potential. You got to work on this. You got to work on that. You got to, start practicing the flexion and everything. And it was cool. That's when I went from being, and he told me many times, I hated you in the beginning. You had this long hair. I had long hair.
You had long hair.
He's like, you had this long hair. You seemed super arrogant, and I was very arrogant. I just didn't have any good feeling about you. But he took me under his wing, and I also let him. Because that gave me a lot of confidence. That gave me confidence and discipline, and I learned how to sell, without lying. He was the one of the salespeople that didn't lie, and he still was a top performer in the worst conditions, like no customers coming into the warehouse. So I was very lucky to learn from the best at that time.
Can imagine.
So yeah, that was 10 years ago. But I was still very selective. Now, today, I try to learn something from everybody I meet in every day, in every moment.
Right.
I see everybody as a teacher in a way. I stopped seeing that a teacher is somebody with a title. It's rather a person in a very moment.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you can be the student in any moment, and you can be the teacher in any moment, and it can switch, and you can be both. But it's a momentarily thing rather than a person with a title.
Yeah, and there's many elements to having that approach in life. I think it's not only being able to absorb the everyday's teachings and benefit from them, but the other fact is like to not take yourself too seriously and to let go of these guardrails, these strict guardrails you often have in your mind, like, no, I only listen to that person, or I only look up to XY, or I get my knowledge from one certain source, or who are you to tell me something?
Mm-hmm.
Everything that basically puts your persona in a shape. It sounds very mystical now, but if you're
Are you talking shapeless stuff?
I guess. I don't know, man. But
Be
the more
water.
your mind is flexible, I think the more you profit from it. Generally in life, as a character,
Yeah.
you know, just if your mind is more shapeless, I guess, like not
Yeah.
stuck to ideas and just being flexible and
Be like water.
be like water, my friend.
It can crash and it can flow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. I thought maybe we can get into that more on some other occasion, more about your training with MMA and jiu-jitsu.
Sure.
But okay, so lately, and this, I think we can also save this much more to its own conversation later on. But we also have some new sort of teachers lately, and that is, I'm seeing a psychologist,
Yeah.
therapist, and I really got sold on the idea of
I'm also seeing a therapist.
when I was told that, I was like, what are you spending, 150 plus euro for a session with a psychologist 2 times a month? It's a lot of money. She's like, yeah, you spend a lot of money on your jiu-jitsu, and then you go to the gym, and then on top of that you have a personal trainer. It's like, yeah, that's my health and my fitness. It's my happiest activities. I'd rather spend money on that. And she's like, well, yeah, I want to train my brain and my mind. I want to be, successful and happy and feeling good in my mind.
Yeah.
I was like, huh, that that is a good pitch. That is a nice way to see it. And that got me thinking. I also want to I also want to train my brain. I also want to fix stuff. It was a very nice way to see, like, okay, fix your shit. But it can be more than just fixing your shit. It can be that you're actually training your mind in a way. And that's what I see in my few sessions that I had so far. It's been the last few weeks have been very heavy, very emotional, very roller coasty, up and down for myself. But I can say on the whole, it's good. I can see that it's good. I can feel that it's good. So far, it's been good, and I can also see how it's gonna get better on the whole.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think it's fascinating to see. I don't know. Maybe I don't know. I studied psychology. Maybe I have a easier entry to it, but I don't know about it. I just think it's fascinating to see how willing people are to invest in all kinds of little helpers in life.
Mm-hmm.
And the more complex our lives become, the more fast paced and more efficient, and the more input we have, the more people spend on, I don't know, health products, spa, services, gadgets, treats, retreats, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But the acceptance of using a tool for doing inner work is still very low. I mean, it's much more than in the past, of course. Some people would even say it's fancy to have a therapist or to do mindfulness training or whatever, but still, relatively in comparison, external versus internal tools that we could use. I still think it's fascinating to see how little adoption there is of, mental well-being training.
At the same time, I see, at least what I see, there's also some sort of a rise. I hear a lot of people around me talking about meditation, here and there, more friends, family, more family that are curious and more like, hey, you know who's meditating? My brother, Muez. you should speak to him. He's sitting there and doing this stuff. Which my family, I think, my siblings, they think it's funny, but they always think everything I do is funny until they try it out themselves.
Yeah.
And then they get into it. They were making fun of me of doing the cold showers long time ago, and I was making sound in the shower.
Yeah.
And I come out of the shower and like, was it cold? Then next time I come visit a year later, I can hear them like taking a shower, like you hear the water splish, splash, splish, splash, and they're like, ah! It's like, what the fuck is going on in there? Like, bro, it was cold. Do you know how cold it was? Yeah. Okay, so looking at these learnings and these teachings.
A conclusion.
Has it been awkward?
Our talk?
Yes.
It's always awkward between you and me.
Always.
Always. No, it's very familiar.
Very familiar.
No, it's not been awkward.
No, the teachings.
The teachings.
Yes. The learnings. Have you had... Oh, wait. Let's finish up with some really awkward MMA sessions one-on-one with your coach.
Oh, that's the most freaking awkward.
Let's talk about this. I just love to see you in this pain of confusion.
There's so many pictures coming up. Don't get me wrong. My coach, David, I love him to death. He's a fantastic coach. It's nothing about him. It's just like, for those out there who don't do any contact sports, especially no kind of grappling, wrestling, whatever, it's very, very intimate,
How intimate?
I mean, picture sweaty, muscular man trying to push
each other against the wall.
Yeah, closing as many gaps between two bodies as possible, and to just grind and maul the opposite. But in sparring, at least.
Wait. Let's just. Can you repeat that again? Were you pressing the body against each other, trying to fill up the gaps, the holes?
No, I mean that's what you generally do, right? In grappling.
This is what you generally do.
But it happens like fast-paced, usually sparring, right?
Yeah. But when it's a one-on-one lesson.
When it's a one-on-one coaching, you go very technically through the movements, all slow, and all of a sudden you find yourself being in a 69 position or south-north. And you just have another man's crotch in your face and like, Jesus. And
it's warm, steamy.
Let's not get into that. But I mean, he looks at you like basically from below, right in your eyes, while you're like in this position, in a deadlock. You're like, yeah, I get it. I totally get it, man. It's,
but is it always awkward? Or do you get over that sometimes?
No, I think it's pretty much always awkward.
Because in jiu-jitsu, the first 6 months, I was always thinking, oh, this is really gay. Oh, nothing. We have nothing against gay at all.
There's a huge gay factor to the whole thing, for sure.
There is something
it's just too...
But I got over it. After 6 months, I didn't think about these things that much. I mean, it hits me instantly, spontaneously sometimes. When the coach is like, stop. Okay, let's stop right where you are. Let's go back and look at the technique again. And you just are entangled in a way, which is a sexual position, basically.
Yeah.
And then you gotta stay there and you look each other in the eye and like, yeah, I guess we gotta stop here.
I mean, it's coming and going, depends on the position. But I don't know. I don't really get rid of that awkward feeling, to be honest. But that's part of it.
It's part of it. It's an awkward lift. Nice. What do you think? We've been in for an hour and 40 minutes.
I think it's time to sleep.
It is. It's late. It's 5 to midnight.
It's a Thursday night. Tomorrow is a worky day.
Thursday night. Worky.
My man, it was a pleasure.
Yeah, it's been great.
Can we
You
do it again?
were the first guest, and then you weren't anymore.
That's right. What happened?
It was an awkward mishap
Yeah,
in the technology.
this is a technology.
Yeah, it happens. That was also an
Occasionally.
awkward learning. You know, we spent time. We were really. The first episode was so cool. We had such a good flow vibe, even though you were still destroyed from whatever you had the training and yeah, I think you were also coming out of a sickness.
Yeah, I
that
think
moment.
so.
Yeah,
I was really low, but it was a good interaction. But then there was no voice to it.
the voice. Yeah, that microphone was just getting into the red, and we learned. It's an
So here
awkward
we are.
learning. Here we are again. We hope this comes up sometime this year.
Yeah. This conversation went down totally different though. It's
Completely.
funny. It's very interesting actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We covered a lot of the same things, but yeah, still different. Nice.
Cool, dude.
Good
Pleasure.
job. My pleasure, my man. Thank you, everybody. Thank
This
you,
is an
Nikolaus.
awkward lift.
Next time we get into something else, keep it awkward.
We'll talk about the mind next time.
Yes, we have a lot of things that we are learning right now, but we want to keep it for
Separato.
for other times.
Yeah.
Okay, so good night.
Good night.
Ciao. Ciao. Adios. Hasta luego. Hasta la
Hasta
vista.
luego.